Hello there and welcome to our Curriculum Pathway Key Stage 4 process for the Year 9 children that we have in our school for this year. I'm Mrs Ingram, the Deputy Head here at North, and normally I would be welcoming you into the hall and we would be having a presentation, and then you would go off to your subject teachers to discuss the areas that you were interested in for your child and discuss the courses. I'm hoping that despite the pandemic, this is a way of you getting your eye in and understanding the process before we have options evening on Thursday, with a view to you then thinking about the sorts of questions you might ask on Thursday, and also looking at the options blocks, which will also be in this presentation. So I'm going to take you through step by step what the options process is about and how we do this. And if you have any questions or any queries about anything at all, the final slide has all the details for you. So let's start off by thinking just at the beginning, if this is your eldest child, you might be thinking back to when you were at school and we had the grade C mark to be a pass, and we had the B's and the A star was right at the top. You'll see now that following the government reform, we now have numbers. So a grade 4 is the equivalent of what was the bottom of a grade C. And as you can see previously, where we only had a C and a B, we've got a bit more flexibility now between the 4, the 5 and a 6. So a 5 is that very top end of a C, moving into the bottom end of what was a B, and a 6 is the old solid grade B. And again, if you look at the top end here, you'll see that previously there was an A and an A star, and now that's been stretched out a little so that you've got the 7 is the bottom of an A, and then you're moving into the 8 for the strong A, and the A stars are the grade 9s. So what does that mean? Where should we be aiming for? So the government calls a grade 4 a standard pass. So in the way when we would have been at school, a grade C was that boundary that you work to achieve to get a pass. That's now the grade 4 mark. And a 4 is a really good credible achievement. It's that kind of pass mark that people discuss. But equally, in the same way as we used to have when we were at school, the C was the mark that everybody aimed for. But, you know, if you could push to get a B, you did. And so a good pass is what is a grade 5. So the top of the old C and above. And that the DfE call that a strong pass. And so you've got your standard passes and your strong passes. And at school, we have to study our core subjects. So a little bit like when we were back at school, and you need to study your English language and your English literature. So all children do both. And those lessons are delivered through the 2 qualifications are delivered through the 1 lesson. So they'll have a lesson of English on their timetable, but the teachers will deliver the literature and the language qualifications. So they'll get 2 qualifications from that subject. You've then got maths, which is tiered to higher and foundation. English doesn't have any tiers anymore. It's an open paper from grade 1 to grade 9. And then you've got your science option on here. Now you'll see for this area, it says science combined and science separate. So I'm going to talk you through what that means in a moment. So the combined science route is the route that the majority of children take. And the idea of combined science, it's 2 GCSEs rolled into 1 qualification. So as you can see from that image, children will study biology, chemistry and physics. But the difference between the combined and the separate sciences, the triple science, is the fact that they don't cover as much content. So in the triple science, there's a whole extra exam paper for each area of biology, chemistry and physics. And the thing with GCSEs nowadays, following the reforms, a lot of the A-level content has moved down into the GCSEs as a kind of preparation for you moving up to do A-level. And so the combined science, you will get 2 grades from it. And as you can see on the left from that image there, it's a double award. And the thing with combined science in comparison to triple, so I'll just move you on to triple, is with the triple science, you can see here, is you would get 3 qualifications, 3 separate grades from the triple science. Now, the triple science is a highly academic, rigorous course. It's got that extra content in from combined, and that is aimed at the children who are of a really high ability. Now, that's based on invite only, and that will also mean that the first option block, which I'll talk you through in a moment, has triple science in it. And so those triple science children will choose that from the first option block. And then they'll need to choose either geography or history, and the triple science children will then get 2 more options to choose from. Combined science children don't have it in the first block because everybody has to do science. So everybody does the equivalent of combined science, whereas our triple children do that extra element to get that third qualification. Now, it's by invite only, and it might be that your child has aspirations of following a path in the creative arts, and they love dance, they love drama, they love art and photography, and despite the fact that they are a highly academic child, triple science isn't for them. Now, that's not to say that the combined science is a lesser award. It isn't at all. You can see, I'll just pop you back to see, well, you can see it on there actually, the grade 9s at the top. So a child who has been invited to triple science but said, actually, that's not the career aspiration I've got, but they still do combined science and get double grade 9, that's still going to be viewed when they apply to university, or if they've got those qualifications, more favourably than a child who did triple science, for example, and got 3 grade 5s. So triple science is for those people who are really passionate about science, really interested in using it for their future choices, are thinking that they may well follow careers that are linked to medicine. They want to do those triple sciences and continue them on to A-level. That content is in the triple, which isn't quite so much in the combined science. It's that extra layer of rigour. So the triple science will be invite only, so those children will have received an invitation, and there will be a waiting list, because not everybody who's been invited, like the example I gave you a moment ago, will think that that is necessarily the right choice for them, even though they are highly academic. So everybody has then studied, just draw you back to this at the top, everybody has then studied English language, English literature, maths, everybody does science. So everybody's on a combined route effectively, with some who have chosen to do the separate sciences. We then have, through government reform, an expectation of what's called the English Baccalaureate. So you may have heard the phrase of the EBAC courses. Now, the subjects that we've highlighted in red here, computer science, history, geography, French and Spanish, are those EBAC subjects. And that EBAC expectation is about choosing subjects that keep young people's options open. It's a universal thing across schools. So you'll find in all schools, because schools are measured on their EBAC, that children are studying a similar subject. And again, a little bit like when we were at school and you had to do geography or history. I remember when I was at school, that was the case, and you could do both. So the EBAC is the core subjects of English, maths and science, plus those following areas of computer science, geography and history. In our school, you can do both. Some schools you can only do one, either geography or history, but in our school we allow you to do both, and we shape our curriculum around that. And then also a language. So we offer French and we offer Spanish, and our languages department is a really strong department. We've got really experienced staff in that languages department, and as you know, we've got a native speaker with Spanish, so it's a real quality GCSE to take. So the EBAC is made up of subjects which are considered essential to many degrees, and I'll talk about this later, and it opens up lots of doors. And research shows that studying subjects included in the EBAC, it opens doors for the future, because like I said before, there's a commonality across schools because of this EBAC measure, that children are studying the same sorts of subjects of the geography, the history and modern foreign language. And again, like I said, probably not very dissimilar to when we were at school ourselves. So points to remember. So it's difficult, isn't it, with a 13-year-old, that you might be thinking 13, 14, you know, they don't know what they want to do next week, let alone when they leave school. However, that's the reason why we like to keep those options open. And although it seems a very long way away, we need to think ahead that if our children are fancying to do, they might not in the end, but if they're thinking about doing a career which is linked to having a degree. Now, some of those jobs have changed. For example, if you've got friends who are of a similar age to you who are police officers or nurses, they may not have done a degree to be doing very well in that profession. However, now you do need to have a degree to be a nurse. You do need to have a degree to be a policeman, policewoman. So we need to think ahead with our children to be thinking, well, actually, when they leave at 16, potentially, or they leave at 18, what will they be doing if they apply to university? They'll be competing for places against children from Bromsgrove School, against children from South Bromsgrove, but children nationally for places. So if they haven't got that academic offer on their application forms, they haven't got that GCSE language in either French or Spanish, then some universities will not accept you with that. There's an expectation that you have studied another language if you are applying to university places. Now, that's not all of our children. We're a comprehensive school, and there may well be children who enjoy studying Spanish, enjoy studying French, but have no interest in going to university, and that's absolutely fine. It's not an elitist subject that can't be accessed by everybody. The qualifications, as we know, run from grade 1 to grade 9. And so if you're passionate about a subject, of course you can take it. But if you are interested in doing a career that is linked to having a degree behind it, then you really should take French or Spanish as one of your options, because we need to be thinking ahead for when we're in that competitive world about what other candidates have on their application forms. And the thing to remember is that when children are applying to universities, they don't actually have their A-level grades at that point. What they have are their GCSE grades, and that's concrete, proven evidence of grades. And so universities often don't look at the predicted grades, because the predicted grades for A-levels are exactly that, they're predicted. What they look at is the proven results of what those children got at GCSE, the range of subjects they covered, and the sorts of grades that they got. So they're just things to bear in mind for the future. So the first block that you will see on your form on Friday is block A. Now, if you're thinking, well, what's all this about option blocks? In order to write the timetable and in order to be able to staff the subjects for each year group, if all the teachers of psychology were teaching year 9, then they wouldn't be able to teach year 10. And so the blocks are there and shaped so that you've got your teachers available in year 9 to teach psychology, but also in 10, 11, 12 and 13. So block A, you'll get a choice of 4 blocks. Block A, you can only choose one from this block. So these are the subjects that I discussed a moment ago that are your EBAC subjects. So the subjects that are academic subjects, subjects that are quite spread with the skill base of geography, history, triple science, Spanish. And this block, you need to choose one thing from it. So you've got your options booklet, which will tell you in more detail the details about computer science, geography, history, etc. Triple science that you've got on here, as it says, is by invite. And again, we then have a literacy pathway. So in the same way we've got this triple science pathway for our high prior attainers who want to do these very rigorous qualifications, we're also very conscious of children who may have very weak literacy skills and have spent the last 2 years in middle school trying to catch up a little bit, but are quite a long way off needing to be where they need to be within the time they've got of getting to that grade 4, that standard pass I talked about earlier. So for a small group of children who whose targets are below a grade 4 and therefore really need that support, because I've already said that if you don't get that grade 4, you have to resit your English and maths, there's a literacy pathway route that we're going to run. And again, that is by invite, because it isn't about just thinking I'm going to do extra English and extra maths and that's going to increase my grades. It's instead of another qualification. So it's very specific, very targeted for specific children who need intensive support with maths and English, with a view to thinking that they need to work towards getting that grade 4. So our triple science students here will choose triple science in this block. Now you might be thinking, but they want to do geography, they want to do history. That's where our other blocks come into play. So GCSEs, these screenshots are from your options booklet, which is on the website and we've sent home. So this middle block is all the GCSE subjects that we offer. And you can see there's a fine range here from art, textiles, photography, design materials, textiles, food, nutrition, media studies, PE, psychology, RE. There's a really strong range of subjects. Now, the big difference between when we were at school and now with GCSEs is following the reform. GCSEs now have a huge amount of content in them. A lot of content, as I said, has come down from A-level, and the courses, the traditional GCSE courses, are now linear. So one of the things you want to think about with your child is if they are choosing all GCSE courses, then that means in year 11, there's very little content. In some of those GCSEs, the majority of GCSEs have no content. Some have some content, and that's now called NEA. It's non-examined assessment. So the old coursework, but it's a very small percentage. So if you think back in the day with English, for example, you could already have your 20% of your mark was speaking and listening, was a speaking and listening task back in the day. And then you had 5 pieces of coursework that you did, and you got all of those coursework marks behind you. So by the time you sat the exam, you'd already got nearly half of your marks at a grade you knew, and then you knew you only had the last bit to go. It's now a different world. Children now sit with their GCSEs 8 hours worth of examination, for example, in English, for their literature and language, and that's 100% exam. So it's more pressured, and it's more rigorous. And the expectation is, of course, with teachers, that's why we now build in teaching about revision, teaching about the cognitive load that children have got of understanding and recalling and retrieving information, so that it isn't all a huge pressure at the end of year 11 with a very traditional curriculum of GCSEs. So it's worth bearing in mind your individual child, what you think will work well with them. To balance the curriculum, we also have these applied and vocational courses. Now, the only real difference between these, this isn't like, again, in the old days where a lot of these BTECs were considered to be easier than traditional GCSEs. Again, through the reform, that is not the case anymore. These subjects are equally as challenging, but the difference with these subjects is every single one of them does have coursework, does have those NEAs, those non-examined assessments. What that means is that as they go along, so a bit like, again, like when we're at school, as you go along, you are gaining marks for the work that you are doing. And you have that opportunity to redo that work, to refine it, to improve it, because all of these subjects that you can see here have got a practical element to them. And so when you're thinking about the balance, and I'll show you some examples in a moment, but the balance across what your child will choose, it's about choosing what you think is going to suit their career aspirations, suit their personalities, the way in which they work, and to go from there. So all of those courses are in the options booklet, and there's lots of detail about how much coursework is in each subject, because it varies between them. And actually having a little look through and finding out about that is really helpful. So these are the other option blocks. So we looked at option A, where you need to choose from your EBAC subjects, and then block B, C and D are what we can see going across here. Now, every child has to study either history and or geography. And again, that's a government directive for aspiration, for commonality across all schools, and for the academic rigour associated with those subjects. So that's one GCSE that they have to do, which they can choose from block A. If you've got a triple scientist in block A, Geography and history are also available in the other blocks. And equally, if a child's chosen French in block A, geography and history are in the other blocks. So if we look at block B, you can see in front of the subject, I've put either GCSE, so you know it's that traditional GCSE, very likely to have 0 coursework. And then the other letters, if it doesn't say GCSE, for example, in block B, underneath child development, it says CNAT. That stands for Cambridge National. So these are the vocational subjects. BTEC is there as well. These Cambridge Nationals, these BTECs, WJC for engineering, it's saying that these qualifications are equal to a GCSE, but they've had a practical element that has been assessed and goes towards the final mark. And it isn't all what you do at the end on the day in an exam, which the traditional GCSEs are now that way. Block C, again in the middle here, you can see a range of GCSEs, and then again at the bottom, you've got the engineering and the health. So the caveat with some of the practical ones here, even at GCSE level, like design technology, they're the ones that have actually got the biggest amount of practical work still in there. Design technology has got 50% practical. However, the other 50% of exam for design technology is quite weighted on maths and understanding your maths with design technology, the same with textiles, in comparison to for example, WJEC engineering, more practical, less exam, less emphasis on your higher order math skills. And then our block D here, you'll see that we've got creative iMedia. So this is a really exciting course that we've brought in, which is developing computing skills. And you'll see again that you've got PE and sport and fitness. They're both in the same block because you can't do both. You need to do one or the other. And again, the main difference between it is PE, GCSE PE has got a greater 60% weighting of exam versus 40% practical. BTEC sport is different. There's more practical assessment than there is on the theory. And you'll see in this one as well, we've got RSL music. So the RSL qualification is an industry recognised qualification which leads you into, we offer that at sixth form as well, leads you through into that path of creative arts. And so you can see from block B, C and D the sorts of things that are on offer. So let's just look at what that might look like for a child. So student A has got to study English language, English literature, maths, but they want to do triple science. They've been invited, they've said yes, they want to do 3 separate sciences of biology, physics and chemistry, 3 separate grades rather than the combined, which will only give them 2. They probably want to go on to study at sixth form the sciences, or they're thinking that having those triple sciences are going to lead to the opportunities that they want career-wise. They've chosen history from the choice of geography or history. They also have ambitions to do a degree-related job. They've chosen French, and they enjoy computer science, so they've also put that down. And as a total, they are studying 9 GCSEs. Student B is studying English language, that's core, English literature, maths, but they are doing what the majority of students do, which is combined science, which gives them their 2 grades. But this child, they have to choose either geography or history, but they can do both. So this child loves geography and history, wants to do both GCSEs. Also is thinking of a degree-related career, so has put French in here, but is absolutely passionate about music, loves their music. And so they want to then put this vocational course in of the RSL music, because that's where they think they might continue on to sixth form, they might continue to be a music producer, work in the music industry, and they want to get that qualification as part of their package. Student C is doing core English, core language, core literature, maths, combined science. Out of the choice of history or geography, they've chosen history, and they are a creative child. So they've chosen BTEC dance, GCSE film and GCSE art. So they've chosen one vocational in there, but with the film and the art, it's following their passions of the sorts of things they're into. Student D is an example here, English language, English literature, maths, combined science, and out of the choice of geography or history, they've gone for geography. But they've also then chosen 3 subjects that are in that column on the right, the vocational, and that's absolutely fine. So this child, as an example, has chosen marketing and enterprise, not the GCSE business studies. So the same sort of qualification, but the marketing and enterprise allows them to do the coursework element. GCSE business studies doesn't. You can't choose both, they cancel each other out. More on that in a moment. They've chosen the WJC in engineering because it's the same level of practical, but without the rigor of the traditional design technology exam, which following the reform is a challenging qualification. And then the BTEC sport and fitness, because they enjoy their sport, they want to do that, but they don't want to do GCSE PE. They don't want the same level of the level of examination in that is greater weighting than it is for BTEC sport. So they've chosen 3 of the vocational subjects there, and that's absolutely fine. So you've got 4 different examples of 4 different types of children, different types of interests, different types of ambition and future thoughts, and this is what that might look like. So where are we up to? So on Thursday, you'll have those slots to speak with staff regarding those option choices. And the blocks will have helped you understand how you choose from each block, but also some of the subjects, you can't do them both. And that's because there's too much commonality between the subjects. So you might, from what I've just talked about, look back at the option booklet and already decide, for example, GCSE PE versus BTEC sport. But if you're not sure, have a conversation with Mr. Stanford about the differences. You can't do both, it's one or the other. The same with design technology. You can't do design technology materials, the old DT that you'd recognise, and also engineering. It's one or the other. BTEC, GCSE Business Studies or the Cambridge National Marketing and Enterprise, again, they overlap. You do one or the other. So again, look in the options booklet, have a little think which you think would be better. And film studies and media studies cross each other out because they're of a similar exam specification. So have a look at film studies, have a look at media studies. If there's a preference of one or the other, that's fine, but you can't do both. And that's the same with the GCSE art qualification, because there's GCSE fine art and there's GCSE photography. And so again, speak with Mrs. Flello about which one you think, if you're not sure which one you think you would be better at, then you can talk about that on Thursday. And then just to give a timescale of the process, so Thursday's options evening. On Friday morning, we'll then send out the option block survey, and you'll have time to discuss that as a family. Look back at the options blocks, look back at discussing with your family, your children, and we've given you a week to do that. So that will close on the 5th of March. What we will then do in the following week is, having got all of those options, this is where we will then, as a senior leadership team, including Miss Walls, who is the head of year, the progress lead, she will, with us, we're going to divide the children amongst us, and we're going to speak to every child to check that their choices work, check that that child feels comfortable and that they've got a balance of options. And that this is why on the options form, we are going to put a question about careers. Now, obviously, you might be thinking, well, they haven't got a clue what they want to do, but that's fine. But that's worth having a conversation with them now yourselves about thinking, well, what could we do in the future? Mr. Wager, the careers advisor, is available on Thursday, so you can book slots with him to discuss future options. And it's worth just Googling. It's worth just spending a little time thinking, well, what sorts of things do you think you're into? What sorts of options might you fancy doing? And then working backwards from there. There's lots of information on the website as well under careers. And then once we've gone through that process of double checking with each child individually that they're happy, then when we come back after Easter, we'll then issue new timetables and we'll be on to our new GCSE options. And so that process then is completed, and everybody hopefully will be on the right choices, the right options, feel happy with what they're doing rather than needing to move. Now, obviously, if despite having had conversations at home, despite having had conversations with us as an SLT, they start the course and then they have a wobble. lots of children have a wobble with things that are new, purely because they're things that are new, and they might not know that teacher. It's new, it's a new course, they might be with a new group of children. So we do like them to sort of ride it out and settle down and see how they get on, because often, you know, people don't like change, and often that kind of just calms things down. However, if after a little period of time, so we come back after Easter, if after May half term you feel that your child is unhappy, or you feel that actually we have made a mistake, the quicker we try and change those options, the better. But it's quite difficult if we do that at that stage, because for some of those subjects, such as food, such as photography, such as DT, such as engineering, drama, dance, there's a set number of children who can do that course because of the facilities and the size and the health and safety. So if suddenly a child decided after May half term, actually I want to do dance, if all of those places are already taken, there will be no room for that child to do that course. If they wanted to suddenly do engineering and those places are full, and there's only so much space you have with the machinery and equipment that you've got, again, we wouldn't be able to accommodate them. So it's really important that we try to make, and we try to put in every layer possible to make the right decisions and stick with them, because they won't have the same level of choice again, because those courses will inevitably be full. And this is my final slide, so thank you for your patience of listening. You might be thinking, well, I just want to have a little look, or who do I go to find out any more information? So the options booklet we've already sent to you, but if it's lost in a depth of emails, it's on the school website under Teaching and Learning and Curriculum, and the link is there. And you'd have seen that on that PDF we sent out to you, there were little thumbs up symbols that if you click them, there were little presentations from departments showing you around the area and why that was a good subject. And we'd use those films as a way of kind of helping you as you would have come into the school to look at those subject areas to kind of get your eye in. So either click the links in the booklet, or you can go to our YouTube channel and look at those presentations. And then you may, after Thursday, think, oh, I forgot to ask this question to that member of staff. I just wish I could speak to them. By all means do, and email them. The emails are on the website. Again, I've put the link there. And with triple science, if you feel that we hope we haven't, but if we feel that a child has been missed for triple science, we do have a waiting list. The science department have spent, there's only so many children that can do triple science. They have spent a long time trying to whittle the numbers down. But if you feel that you've got a query on that, please speak to Mrs. Bridges. She's the head of science. Again, the careers advisor is Mr. Wager. His email's there. Miss Walls is the head of Year 9. She will stay with your children all the way through school. So it's useful if you've got any pastoral concerns or anything you think that you want to discuss with her. That's an opportunity linked to options to have a discussion with her there. And again, with Mrs. Jenkinson, she's our Senko, you may have a specific worry about your child. They may have had particular access arrangements in Year 6 for their SATs with a scribe, or they may have had extra time. And you might be thinking, well, how's that going to work now we're up at high school? Again, speak to Mrs. Jenkinson. I know it's looking a little bit ahead, but if that's something on your mind, we can put your mind at ease over that. And then you might find that completing the form, you get stuck, or you're not quite sure how to do it, or it goes wrong, and you press a button. I did a form for my daughter's school and accidentally pressed the button and disappeared off the screen, and I only half filled it in. Who do you contact? You would contact Mrs. Duff, or if you were as daft as I was when I was trying to fill a form in. And then I'm always here as well. So Mrs. Ingram, Deputy Head, there's my email on the screen. So for everything else, or if it's not been covered there, or you have any worries, or you want to talk things through after you've had this kind of chat on Thursday and you've talked to subject teachers, if you still want another conversation, then I'm always here as well. So thank you for your time. I appreciate it's a little bit of a lengthy presentation, but normally, as I said, I'd be standing up in the hall and doing that, and you'd be listening to me, and then off you'd go. So I just hope that's been a way of you kind of getting a bit of a feel for what we're doing. Any questions, like I said, I'm always there as well. And I'm sure this year, despite us doing things remotely, it will go as smoothly as it has done every year, and all will be well. Okay, thank you very much, and we'll hopefully see you very soon in a couple of weeks. Take care. Bye-bye.